Segment 1. Why It Sucked to Be a Eunuch in the Forbidden City. Introduction. Imagine stepping quietly into the shadows of one of the grandest and most secretive places in all of China, the Forbidden City. Towering walls of golden tiles rise above you, protecting the delicate and dangerous world within. The air is thick with the scent of incense and the faint rustle of silks as the royal court moves in its endless dance of power and hierarchy. In the midst of this immense, ornate labyrinth, imagine yourself in the position of one of the most marginalized, yet crucial figures in the imperial court, the eunuch. The life of a eunuch in the Forbidden City was one of paradoxes full of both influence and humiliation, servitude and power. You are neither a simple servant nor a nobleman. You occupy a space of strange contradictions, serving the emperor's needs while enduring a life of separation, physical alteration, and societal scorn. In this segment, we will step into the shoes of the eunuchs who served in the Forbidden City, a world where loyalty, trust, and fear intermingled in the hidden chambers of power. What was it like to live here, on the edge of both privilege and cruelty? The life of a eunuch, power and punishment. The eunuchs were men who had been castrated, often at a young age, to serve in the imperial palace, guarding the emperor's women and attending to his personal affairs. The ritual of castration, often brutal and performed without anesthesia, was a harrowing experience, and its lifelong effects marked the eunuch's position in society forever. The physical toll of this procedure was profound, but so was the mental and emotional weight they carried in their service to the emperor. In the Forbidden City, a eunuch's role was multifaceted. You were both servant and advisor, tasked with attending to the emperor's family, managing his personal affairs, and overseeing the palace's inner workings. Despite the castration that marked your identity, many eunuchs rose to positions of influence within the court. They could become trusted counselors, confidants, and even commanders of military forces. The most powerful eunuchs could exert far-reaching influence, often acting as gatekeepers to the emperor, controlling access to the imperial throne. Yet, while some achieved power, they were always aware of their fragile status. A eunuch's position was precarious. You were never fully accepted by the outside world. Your altered body and your status as someone outside the traditional male roles of family and fatherhood made you a figure of suspicion, even disdain. In the Forbidden City, you were constantly under the watchful eyes of others. Your loyalty always questioned, your power constantly tested. Despite the occasional rise to positions of great influence, the eunuchs lived under a veil of deep vulnerability. Many were manipulated, used as pawns in the larger game of court politics. And while some might live in luxurious quarters, adorned with silk and jewels. Their lives were always tied to the whims of the emperor and the politics of the court. One false move, one whisper against the wrong faction, and a eunuch could find themselves cast out, or worse, executed. Still, the eunuchs held on to their sense of power. They had their fingers on the pulse of the empire, privy to the most secret and intimate details of the emperor's life. The eunuchs lived among the most privileged and influential figures in China. But their power was always double-edged, forever tied to the very thing that defined them, their unique and painful condition. Segment 2, The Rise of the Yongle Emperor. Introduction. As we move from the shadowy lives of the eunuchs in the Forbidden City, let us now turn our gaze to a figure who ascended to the very pinnacle of power, the Yongle Emperor. His reign is one that brims with ambition, intrigue, and grand schemes that would shape the course of Chinese history. Imagine yourself, once again, walking through the golden gates of the Forbidden City. But this time, you are in the midst of one of the most powerful rulers in Chinese history, the man who sought to redefine the very nature of the empire. The Yongle Emperor, known formally as Zhu Di, was a man driven by a singular vision: to expand his empire and consolidate power. His rise to the throne, filled with ambition and bloodshed, marked a turning point in the Ming Dynasty. But beyond the battles, beyond the grand policies and foreign expeditions, his rule was one of paradox. It was one of brutal violence and remarkable cultural achievements. In this segment, we will explore how Zhu Di, once a prince, rose to become the Yongle Emperor, and how his rule would forever alter the course of Chinese history. Zhu Di's ambitious rise. Zhu Di, the fourth son of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty, was not originally in line for the throne. His father, Emperor Hongwu, had established a harsh, authoritarian rule, and upon his death, the throne passed to Zhu Di's older brother, the Jianwen Emperor. However, Zhu Di's ambitions were not content with remaining in the shadows of his elder brother. When the Jianwen Emperor began making significant changes to the empire structure, including reducing the power of the military and the nobles, Zhu Di saw an opportunity. He believed that these reforms were weakening the empire, and he began plotting to seize the throne. In 1399, Zhu Di led a military rebellion known as the Jingnan Campaign against his nephew, the Jianwen Emperor. The rebellion was long and brutal, and the struggle for power was fierce, with lives lost on both sides. After several years of conflict, Zhu Di emerged victorious. The Jianwen Emperor disappeared from history, presumed dead or imprisoned man. Zhu Di ascended to the throne as the Yongle Emperor. This violent coup marked the beginning of his reign, a reign that would redefine the imperial structure of China. The Yongle Emperor's rule, expansion and culture once in power. The Yongle Emperor immediately set about expanding the reach of his empire. He sought not only to solidify his control over China, but to assert Chinese influence over the surrounding regions. One of his most notable achievements was his aggressive military campaigns in the north, particularly against the Mongols. Under his leadership, the Ming dynasty pushed the Mongols out of northern China, securing borders that had been unstable for centuries. But it wasn't just military conquest that defined the Yongle Emperor's rule. It was also his cultural legacy. The Yongle Emperor was a patron of the arts, commissioning the creation of some of the most important works in Chinese history. One of his most famous endeavors was the construction of the Yongle Encyclopedia, an immense project that sought to gather all of human knowledge at the time into one massive text. The encyclopedia, though unfinished, represented the emperor's desire to both consolidate his power and to position himself as the true representative of Chinese culture. The Yongle Emperor also made notable strides in foreign diplomacy. He launched the famous voyages of Admiral Zheng He, who led expeditions to Southeast Asia, the Indian Ocean, and even East Africa. These voyages, some of the largest naval expeditions in history, were designed to assert China's dominance over the seas and to establish trade routes that would enrich the empire. Zheng He's ships, enormous by the standards of the time, were a symbol of China's growing power and influence under the Yongle Emperor. Paradox of the Yongle Emperor. Despite his cultural achievements and military successes, the Yongle Emperor's reign was also marked by contradictions. While he was a patron of learning and the arts, he was also known for his cruelty and political purges. His military campaigns were often brutal, and during his rise to power, he did not hesitate to use violence against his own family. His reign, while marked by significant achievements, was also deeply tainted by the bloodshed that accompanied his ascent to power. The Yongle Emperor's ambitious character and desire for greatness often overshadowed his more compassionate traits. He was a man who sought to leave a lasting legacy, one that could secure his place in history. But he was also a ruler who believed that the ends justified the means. In many ways, his reign exemplified the paradox of imperial China, where the pursuit of power was often marked by both grandeur and brutality. Segment 3. The Peking Clockwork Lion and Forgotten Inventions. Introduction. As we move forward, away from the political intrigues of the Yongle Emperor, imagine yourself stepping into a quieter corner of the Forbidden City, where the grand designs of power give way to the quiet wonders of invention. Here, amidst the clattering of the emperor's court and the murmurs of politics, there is a different kind of legacy at play, a legacy of innovation, artistry, and craftsmanship. In the heart of this imperial world, surrounded by jade and silk, a clockwork lion stands in mechanical stillness. This object, though simple in its appearance, is one of the many forgotten marvels of ancient China, a symbol of the advanced technological ingenuity that often goes unnoticed in the shadows of the Forbidden City's grander narratives. In this segment, we will explore the forgotten inventions and mechanisms that thrived under the reigns of China's emperors, with the clockwork lion as one example of the fascinating blend of art, science, and cultural achievement. The Peking clockwork lion, a wonder of mechanical art. The Peking clockwork lion is one of the most remarkable, albeit lesser known, inventions of the Ming Dynasty, created during the reign of the Yongle Emperor, or possibly his successors. This mechanical marvel was part of a larger tradition of automata machines or devices designed to imitate human or animal movement through intricate clockwork mechanisms. Imagine standing before this lifelike lion, its eyes gleaming, its body poised in silent anticipation. This clockwork lion was not merely a decorative piece. It was a symbol of the technological advancements that flourished within the Forbidden City, where inventors and craftsmen were given the freedom and the resources to explore new ideas. The lion, with its moving parts powered by a complex system of gears and springs, was designed to mimic the natural movement of an actual lion. Its head would turn, its tail would swish, and its body would shift in subtle motions. Though the Peking clockwork lion no longer exists today, its legacy lives on in the many mechanical wonders of the time, many of which remain lost to history. The lion was one of the few surviving pieces of the early clockwork technology that once fascinated the emperors and their court. It was a testament to the ingenuity of the time, a reflection of the marriage of art and technology that flourished in the Forbidden City. The creation of automata like the Peking clockwork lion was influenced by both Chinese traditions and foreign ideas, particularly from the Islamic world and Europe, where mechanical devices had begun to emerge in the Middle Ages. Chinese artisans skilled in metalworking, jade carving, and other crafts took these foreign influences and blended them with their own advanced understanding of engineering, creating devices that were both beautiful and functional. Forgotten inventions of the Forbidden City, the Peking clockwork lion, is only one example of the many forgotten inventions that were crafted in the imperial courts of China. In addition to mechanical wonders, there were also sophisticated scientific instruments, including astronomical devices, clocks, and even early forms of printing mechanisms. These inventions, though often overshadowed by the larger political dramas unfolding in the Forbidden City, played a crucial role in shaping the culture and legacy of the Ming Dynasty. One of the most notable advancements was the creation of the Chinese water clock. an invention that combined both practical engineering and artistic beauty. Water clocks were used to measure time in a way that was far ahead of their time, and they played an important role in the daily life of the imperial court. These clocks were intricate devices using the flow of water to regulate mechanical movements. They would have been used to mark the passage of time during the emperor's daily routines, as well as during ceremonies and other important court events. Another fascinating example of forgotten invention is the astrolabe, a device used for navigation and determining the position of celestial bodies. Chinese astronomers were far ahead of their European counterparts when it came to mapping the stars, and their instruments allowed them to make more accurate observations of the night sky. These celestial devices were often used in conjunction with astrology and were integral to imperial decision-making, helping to shape the political and cultural landscape of the time. The beauty of these inventions lies not just in their technical mastery, but in the way they served the imperial system. Whether through the creation of fantastical mechanical beasts or the development of timekeeping and navigational tools, these inventions were part of the larger cultural tapestry that supported the emperor's power. They were not only functional, they were works of art that reflected the empire's wealth, sophistication, and cultural dominance. Legacy of forgotten inventions. Though many of these inventions have been lost or forgotten by time, their legacy continues to influence the world today. The clockwork technology that was once so prized in the Forbidden City laid the groundwork for many of the mechanical devices that would later come to define the Industrial Revolution in Europe. The astrolabe, the water clock, and other scientific tools are still used as models of innovation and ingenuity. Today, much of the imperial court's technological legacy lives on in the form of museums and collections. The surviving artifacts, including models of ancient clocks and astronomical instruments, offer a glimpse into the fascinating world of the Forbidden City. A world where the emperor's power was as much defined by mechanical wonders as it was by political intrigue. In the shadow of the Forbidden City's palatial halls, where emperors and courtiers lived, their lives steeped in ceremony, the quiet ticks and hums of forgotten machines served as a reminder of the empire's enduring cultural and technological achievements. Segment 4: The Dowager Empress and the Drama of the Imperial Court. Introduction. As the echoes of the Clockwork Lion and forgotten inventions fade into the background, we now turn our attention to one of the most powerful and dramatic figures to ever inhabit the Forbidden City, the Dowager Empress. Picture the grand halls once again, but this time the air is thick with tension, whispers of courtly intrigue, and the silent, steely gaze of a woman who wielded power like no other. The intrigue and drama of the imperial court reached their crescendo in her presence. For she was a force of nature in an era where women's power was often hidden in plain sight. In the Forbidden City, life wasn't just about ceremonial power or grand military conquests. Sit was also about the silent games of influence, manipulation, and survival played within the walls of the imperial harem. The Dowager Empress, whether in the form of Empress Cixi or another, became the epicenter of these political games, outlasting emperors, advisors, and even her own family members. Her story was not just one of power, but of survival in a world where political maneuvering was a constant and deadly dance. In this segment, we will explore the life and influence of the Dowager Empress, her complex role in the imperial court, and the drama that unfolded under her watchful eye. The rise to power of the Dowager Empress. The Dowager Empress, often referred to as Empress Cixi, was born into the Manchu aristocracy, but rose from humble beginnings to become the most influential woman in imperial China. Her story is a tale of political cunning, resilience, and the ability to navigate a male-dominated world. Born as a commoner, she entered the Forbidden City at the age of 16 as one of Emperor Xiangfeng's concubines. Over time, her intelligence and political acumen caught the attention of the emperor. She gave birth to his only son, the future Tangzi Emperor, which elevated her status within the palace. When Emperor Xiangfeng passed away in 1861, the throne passed to her young son, and Cixi was left with no choice but to become the de facto ruler of China. Cixi quickly maneuvered her way into power, using her political savvy to outmaneuver those who sought to control her son's reign. She formed a powerful alliance with key officials in the court, including the influential eunuchs who played a crucial role in maintaining imperial power. Through these alliances, she managed to maintain her grip on the throne and became the true ruler of China, despite the formal authority being held by her son. Her rise to power was marked by cunning and ruthlessness. She deftly eliminated rivals, both inside and outside the Forbidden City, and was known for her skill at turning political crises to her advantage. Her reign, though officially as a regent for her son, lasted for decades until her death in 1908. The drama of the imperial court of China during Empress Cixi's reign was not just a place of power. It was also a theater of drama, where rivalries, conspiracies, and power struggles played out behind the palace walls. As the true ruler of China, Cixi found herself at the heart of this drama, often orchestrating events from behind the scenes. One of the most notable episodes in the drama of the imperial court was the First Opium War, which left China humiliated by the British and forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking. Though Cixi did not directly participate in the war, its aftermath greatly impacted her reign. The subsequent Treaty of Tianjin further weakened China. And this ignited a deep desire in Cixi to restore China's dignity and assert her power. In the process, she implemented reforms, but her actions were often dictated by the need to preserve the imperial family's rule. Yet Cixi's rule was not solely defined by political maneuvering. Her relationships within the court were fraught with tension, especially with her son, the Tongzi Emperor. Their relationship was complex and often strained. Cixi controlled the reins of power, but she still had to manage the court's expectations of her son's role as emperor. The Tongzi Emperor, a young and often weak ruler, was caught in the crossfire of political maneuvering. His role as emperor often diminished to little more than a figurehead. His untimely death in 1875 under mysterious circumstances led to another upheaval in the Forbidden City, with Cixi once again taking control, this time of the young Guangxu Emperor, her nephew. Empress Cixi's political drama did not end there. One of the most significant chapters of her reign was her involvement in the Boxer Rebellion. The Boxer Rebellion, a violent uprising against foreign influence and Christian missionaries in China, presented Cixi with yet another opportunity to assert her power. Initially, she had been hesitant to support the movement, but eventually she sided with the Boxers, believing it would help consolidate her authority and push back against foreign intervention. The rebellion led to a devastating intervention by foreign powers, culminating in the invasion of Beijing and the signing of an indemnity agreement that severely weakened China. Cixi's legacy, power, drama, and decline. Despite her controversial reign, Cixi's legacy is a paradox. She was a woman who ruled an empire for nearly half a century at a time, when most women were relegated to the background. Her power, however, came at a significant cost. The drama of the court was always an ever-present undercurrent, and many of the policies and decisions she made ultimately contributed to the decline of the Qing dynasty. Under Cixi's rule, China did see some reforms and modernization attempts, including military and infrastructural improvements. However, she was also deeply resistant to the growing influence of Western powers and modernity, which ultimately contributed to the dynasty's fall in the early 20th century. Empress Cixi died in 1908, just days before the Guangxu Emperor's death, leaving behind a legacy that was both feared and admired. Though she is often remembered as a manipulative and power-hungry figure, she was also a woman who, against all odds, carved out a space for herself in a world that offered little room for women in positions of power. The drama of her reign, marked by ruthless political calculations, complex relationships, and an empire teetering on the edge of modernity, remains one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of the Forbidden City. A place of immense power and beauty was also a place of great tension and intrigue. The eunuchs, the Yongle Emperor, the forgotten inventions, and the Dowager Empress each played their part in shaping the complex narrative of imperial China. Behind its golden walls, the court's dramas unfolded whispers of power, manipulation, and survival. And as we leave this world behind, we are reminded of the quiet shadows and secrets that continue to shape the history of the Forbidden City, long after its gates were closed to the outside world.